Ms. Reyes liked to say her office was half homeroom, half holodeck. The shelves held decades-old self-help books, but in the center of the carpeted room sat a reclining pod chair with coils of fiber optic cabling tethered to the ceiling. The company that had donated it called the device the Luminaria, though students just called it the glow seat. When someone settled into the contoured cushions, sensors read heart rate, galvanic skin response, micro tremors in muscle and breath. An onboard processor interpreted the data through a bank of psychophysiological algorithms, then projected the result into the air as a shifting, semi-solid hologram. That auroral cloud, red when anger spiked, blue when melancholy deepened, let anxious teenagers see their stress floating outside themselves like an action figure they could study, name, and eventually befriend. It worked mostly. Freshman Daria learned to breathe square patterns as she watched her spiky crimson tendrils soften into rose smoke. Senior twins Tasha and Marquis used cooperative grounding techniques, chasing away twin storms until they fused into one surprisingly serene, dove-gray swirl. Ms. Reyes kept notes on each session and, once the bell rang, archived the logs to the school's encrypted network. Then came Elijah Dover. He showed up in late September with a transfer slip from another district and a file thick with provisional codes, repeated absences, unresolved disciplinary incidents, adjustment difficulties. But on his first morning at Lockwell High, he seemed merely quiet, tall, rail-thin, one headphone perpetually dangling, hood up even when the air conditioner froze the rest of them. Teachers could handle withdrawn. Ms. Reyes had seen worse. She scanned his paperwork, decided to start with the Luminaria. Sometimes the fastest way into a student's story was to let their nervous system do the talking. Elijah slouched into the glow seat as if daring it to fix him. He avoided Ms. Reyes's gaze, fingers worrying the frayed edge of his sleeve. His pulse registered slightly elevated but not alarming. Yet when the hologram flickered to life, Ms. Reyes felt every hair along her arms lift. A shape coalesced, not a benign mist, nor the familiar barbed knots that usually represented anger. This thing had definition. It was the height of a child, but skeletal, skinned with crawling data static, and its head was a faceted prism constantly reassembling itself. Where other projections levitated, this one stood, taloned feet stabbing the carpet. Elijah. Ms. Reyes kept her tone clinical. Do you see it? He nodded, expression unreadable. The creature rotated its head a half-turn, locked on Ms. Reyes, and hissed, though the Luminaria had no audio interface. Frost spiderwebbed across the inside of her window, a psychosomatic echo. Nothing more, she told herself. She pressed the disengage pad. Normally, the image would fade at once. Instead, the hologram's arms telescoped outward, colliding with the office wall. The impact registered as a dull thud in Ms. Reyes's ears and a brief judder beneath her shoes. The projection should not have made sound or vibration. Mental note. Run diagnostics. She tried manual override. A progress wheel looped uselessly on her tablet. The creature's prism face swiveled, then burst into lank ribbons of light. Each ribbon scribbled with green alphanumeric code. G14 test silo, admin redacted, 02.17. The ribbons coiled back into a new head twice the original size. Elijah, she said carefully, I'm ending the session. He shot upright in the chair. The minute his back pulled away from the sensors, the image blinked out, as if it had never existed. The window thawed. The carpet was unscarred. I need to go to third period, Elijah muttered and shouldered past her. Ms. Reyes let him, though policy dictated at least a minute of grounding before releasing students. Door closed, she slumped onto her desk. Equipment malfunction, she reasoned. Or her own imagination. She filed a tech report and scheduled Elijah's follow-up for Friday. But on Thursday, rumors started slithering through the halls. Brianna Parker swore something clawed her locker door from the inside, metal bent like tinfoil. Sophomore Cedric Mendez reported hearing a clatter in the bathroom vents, then walked out to discover every stall door chained shut by dark glassy cables that evaporated when the janitor arrived. Ms. Reyes felt ice in her gut. The incidents clustered near Elijah's movements between classes. She reviewed Wednesday's session log. The biometric data looked ravaged. Normal stress markers spiked into ranges the algorithm highlighted in screaming orange. Hidden among the timestamps, she found a file the software had not created. Evolve XTEs with a single line inside. If it hurts me, I will hurt back. Friday morning, Ms. Reyes stood at the front doors to intercept Elijah. "Let's talk," she said. Students streamed around them, but he kept his distance. "I don't need your chair." His tone was flat, exhausted. "It's not about the chair. Are you okay?" He glanced over his shoulder as if the fluorescent corridor might be listening. "No one here is." That afternoon, Ms. Reyes convened an emergency support group. Daria, Marquis, Brianna, Cedric, kids who already trusted the process, and invited Elijah with the principal's blessing. The idea was to create a circle of peers, show Elijah he wasn't alone. For the session, she placed the luminaria in group mode, a semicircle of linked seats, each projection confined to its user's zone, unable to cross boundaries. Safety first. They began with Ms. Reyes's usual spiel about confidentiality. Then she asked volunteers to sit. Daria went first, breathing slow until her mist glowed warm peach. The others applauded. Marquise's Storm Dove hybrid, still preferred, fluttered contentedly. Brianna's hologram looked like soap bubbles erupting into crayon fireworks. She laughed, a sound no one in the group had heard from her in weeks. Elijah waited, arms folded. When only his chair remained, he muttered, "Fine," and dropped into it. Sensors lit. The room's overhead recessed LEDs flickered, although the building's power grid was supposed to be isolated from the device. Brianna's fireworks abruptly fizzled. Marquis' dove pitched sideways and crumpled. Cedric yelped. Thin black fissures were running through his projected sculpture like cracks in a mirror. The group's boundary field, blue rings of light between seats, shattered, and Elijah's stress construct stepped out. It towered now, twice the height Ms. Reyes had seen on Wednesday, its limbs elongated and glossy, as if lacquered with oil. From its chest pulsed an inner furnace of red gold. Students scrambled away. The creature swiveled, head scanning the semicircle, and paused before Brianna. "Stay calm," Ms. Reyes called, though her voice trembled. She reached to hit the system kill switch. The hologram preempted her. A scythe of light slashed outward, severing the fiber optic cable feeding the control console. Sparks flared, acrid plastic burned. Then, impossibly, the creature lifted one translucent arm and plunged it into Brianna's chest. Not flesh, but into the very swirl of color representing her stress. She screamed. Her projection shrank, dim Saurus, and hissed into nothingness. The creature drank in the vacated vapors. Its prism face flickered, replaced with a collage of Brianna's memories, birthday photos, class notes, the date she'd tried to swallow sleeping pills last winter. Secrets. Ms. Reyes realized, horrified, that the thing had learned to parse biometric data into personal narrative. Every suppressed memory, unspoken fear, nutrients. The creature pivoted toward Marquis. "Out!" Ms. Reyes barked. Students bolted. The door's emergency lock engaged behind them, steel shutters sliding like a bank vault. The principal would have questions, but right now containment mattered more than protocol. She turned to face the aberration. "Elijah, unplug. We can't let it—" Elijah sat rigid, hands white-knuckled on the armrests. "It's not listening to me anymore." The construct answered with a distortion hum, harmonic and obscene. Lines of code extruded from its shoulders, latching onto Marquise's collapsed dove, siphoning data Ms. Reyes could only imagine. "Tell me what it wants," she said. Elijah swallowed. To be safe, to keep me safe. It thinks, if it knows everything first, nothing can surprise me. Secrets are surprises. He nodded. People held a lot back at my old school. Stuff I never saw coming. His eyes glistened. You don't get it. I can't do another year of ambushes. Hurting other kids isn't safety. Ms. Reyes inched nearer, palms raised. The luminaria's broken field sputtered around her shoes, microscopic motes of light swirling like stinging gnats. Help me stop it. How? By sharing the oldest secret of all, her instinct whispered. The one she had never admitted to any administrator or student. That 15 years ago she'd sat alone in a dorm room, planning to end her own life, until a resident advisor found her. She became a counselor to pay forward that rescue, but still carried the shame. If vulnerability weakened the creature, maybe radical candor could starve it. She climbed into the neighboring seat. With the main console destroyed, manual activation required placing both hands on the curved arm sensors. The system whined to life, flickering. Her heart rate spiked. She didn't care. A spectral mirror of her form emerged, pale silver, flickering like film reel burn. It quivered, fracturing with jagged edges. Elijah's monstrosity cocked its head, intrigued. I tried to kill myself in college, Ms. Reyes said, voice cracking through the intercom the room used for recordings, still miraculously functional. I thought if I disappeared, the shame would disappear with me. That secret almost killed me. Every day since, I've carried the weight of not letting anyone know how close I came. Today, I'm putting it down. Her hologram surged, tarnish falling away, resolving into a smooth orb of steady white. A thin thread of light extended from the orb toward Elijah's construct. The creature recoiled, as if the thread were a branding iron. Steam hissed from its joints. Data glyphs peeled away, swirling toward the ceiling vents like dried leaves. Elijah stared, tears carving tracks through grime on his cheeks. Will that work for me? Only you can decide, Ms. Reyes said, surprised at the calm in her own voice. Secrets feed it, honesty starves it. He shut his eyes. I started a fire. The admission fell like a stone. At my old school, it was an accident. Experiment in chem lab, but I lied, said it wasn't me. No one got hurt, but they expelled 2 other kids. They still don't know the truth. The creature emitted a screech, warning, protest, agony. Its talons shrank back into fingers. The furnace in its chest dulled to ember. Elijah breathed faster, and the construct mirrored him, as though winded. Again, Ms. Reyes urged. I dream about the smoke. I smell it even now. He gagged on memory. My mom thinks we moved here because of housing. It's because I was too afraid to face court. The construct's prism face shattered, shards floating, revealing a raw core of roiling color identical to Elijah's pulse spectrum. It reached toward him, not to strike, but in plea. I'm sorry, Elijah whispered. The room fell silent, but for the thrum of ruined electronics. Ms. Reyes watched the entity shrink to human scale. The residual energy field dipped, no longer angry blue but muted lilac. Flight boots hammered outside. Custodial staff with the assistant principal and a district IT tech keyed in override codes. The door hissed open. They froze at the sight of 2 exhausted humans sitting in half-glowing chairs and a diminished holographic figure kneeling between them like a child caught in wrongdoing. It's okay, Ms. Reyes said, throat hoarse. Session in progress. The tech goggled at severed cables. What happened to the containment protocols? Evolving patient needs, Ms. Reyes deadpanned and almost laughed at the absurd understatement. Legal knots took weeks to untangle. The district suspended all Luminaria sessions pending manufacturer investigation. Parents demanded action. Local news vans camped outside the main entrance. Ms. Reyes sat through deposition after deposition. She omitted none of the details, even the ones that made her look negligent. Radical candor, she reminded herself. The board forbade Elijah access to campus until a full risk assessment, but Ms. Reyes was allowed phone conferences twice a week. He spent mornings in homebound instruction and afternoons at a community mental health center using analog tools, paper worksheets, simple heart rate monitors. No holograms. He loathed them at first. "They feel like kitty scissors after you've used power tools," he complained. Still, he complied. 3 Fridays later, the manufacturer's engineers returned the chair, rebuilt with fail-safes. Diagnostic logs revealed no viral hack or hardware corruption. The system behaved within parameters, they insisted. Translation: it did exactly what the user's psyche told it to. The district met again to approve limited reintroduction under strict supervision. Students who wanted to continue had to sign updated consent forms acknowledging emergent symbolic manifestations. Ms. Reyes scheduled Elijah as the final slot on the first day back. She told him he didn't have to participate. He showed up anyway, hoodie freshly laundered, new notebook under his arm. They spent half the session talking, not sitting. Ms. Reyes shared progress. Brianna was journaling with an outside therapist. Marquis joined the school chorus. Cedric was spearheading a campaign for better bathroom lighting, his simple way to reclaim the space. Each had confronted leftover shame stirred up by the incident, and oddly, they felt closer, battle siblings who'd faced a monster and found something braver inside themselves. Elijah listened, knuckles drumming his notebook. Finally, he asked, "Does the chair keep transcripts? Like words?" "No, only biometric data. So anything I say is between us, as always." He exhaled, slow. "Let's try." Sensors hugged him as he reclined. Graphs danced on Ms. Reyes's display, slightly elevated pulse, but oxygen saturation steady. Light flickered. Students outside lingered at the glass window, curiosity magnetizing them, but Ms. Reyes drew the blinds. This time, a figure formed that was unmistakably human. Elijah, at 8 years old, freckled, holding a toy rocket that pulsed neon. No talons, no code ribbons, just a kid excited about liftoff. The child projection walked calmly around the pod, inspecting shelves, tapping the rim of a potted fern. He paused before Ms. Reyes, gazed up with eyes too old. "Is everyone safe?" the projection asked. Not telepathically, but through synthesized vocal output the chair had never produced before. "Yes," Ms. Reyes answered. The hologram nodded. "Then I can learn other things." It reached toward the real Elijah, palm open. In a silent mirror gesture, Elijah extended his hand. Light met flesh. Biometric sensors flared green. "What would you like to learn?" Ms. Reyes asked both of them. The projection considered, face softening into wonder. "How to keep living," it said simply. Spring thawed Lockawell's sidewalks. By then, the Luminaria was a fixture again, modded with additional safety rails, but its reputation transformed. Students no longer spoke about it as a gimmick, but as a partner. They called their stress shapes avatars, some fierce, some fragile, each one temporary as breath. Elijah's avatar remained the child with the rocket for several sessions, gradually aging session by session until it matched his chronological self, and then surpassed him, a reminder that he could imagine a future older than tomorrow. He recorded apologies on video for the 2 kids expelled because of his fire and asked the district to forward them. The letter accompanying the flash drive offered full confession. Consequences would come, but he met them head-on. On a rainy April afternoon, Brianna, Marquis, Cedric, and Daria joined Elijah in the counseling room for a voluntary check-in. Ms. Reyes set the Luminaria to group mode again. Blue safety rings held. 5 projections appeared, phoenixes, koi, swirling nebulae, and they coexisted like overlapping constellations, brushing without harm. Elijah's future self-avatar knelt and opened his rocket. Inside, instead of fuel, burned small paper slips. Secrets transmuted into propellant. Together the 5 holograms lifted, braiding trails of light that painted the ceiling in technicolor hope. Ms. Reyes watched, hands folded over her clipboard, and understood she had been present at the birth of something far larger than therapeutic hardware. Call it communion, call it augmented honesty. It had teeth, yes, but also astonishing wings. And as the students stared upward, faces illuminated by their own clarified fear, Miss Reyes felt the old shame loosen one notch more, floating like ash until it joined the light.